What if the reason you feel more distant from people lately is not because something is wrong with you, but because you are starting to see things more clearly? It's a thought that most people hesitate to admit, even to themselves. At some point, many individuals begin noticing a quiet shift in how they experience social interaction. Conversations that once felt engaging begin to feel repetitive. Behaviors that once seemed normal start to feel predictable. And slowly, without any dramatic event, there is a growing sense of disconnection. It is not that people suddenly become unlikable. It is that your perception of them changes. You begin noticing patterns you did not see before. You begin recognizing inconsistencies between what people say and what they do. You begin detecting subtle motivations beneath surface-level behavior. This increased awareness can change the emotional experience of social interaction in a significant way. Instead of simply participating in conversations, you find yourself observing them. Instead of reacting naturally, you find yourself analyzing what is happening beneath the surface. Over time, this shift can make interactions feel less spontaneous and more predictable. And when something becomes predictable, it often becomes less engaging. One of the reasons this happens is cognitive pattern recognition. As people gain experience and develop their thinking, their minds become more efficient at identifying repeated behaviors. They notice conversational habits, emotional responses, and social dynamics that follow familiar structures. For example, they may recognize when someone is seeking validation rather than sharing genuine thoughts. They may notice when humor is used to avoid meaningful discussion. They may see how certain opinions change depending on the audience. These observations are not always negative, but they reduce the sense of novelty that once made interactions feel interesting. When novelty decreases, engagement often decreases as well. Another factor involves the relationship between depth and interest. As individuals become more reflective, they often develop a preference for deeper conversations. They become curious about ideas, perspectives, and meaning rather than surface-level exchange. However, many social environments are structured around light conversation. Topics remain safe, predictable, and widely acceptable. While this makes interaction easier, it can also make it feel limited for those seeking depth. Over time, this mismatch between desired depth and available conversation creates a sense of dissatisfaction. The individual may begin feeling that interactions lack substance, even if they are socially pleasant. Emotional awareness also contributes to this shift. As individuals become more attuned to emotional signals, they begin noticing subtle inconsistencies. They may detect when someone's words do not fully match their tone. They may sense underlying tension in seemingly relaxed conversations. They may recognize when emotions are being performed rather than genuinely expressed. This awareness adds another layer to social interaction. Instead of experiencing conversations at face value, they experience them through multiple dimensions simultaneously. This complexity can make interaction feel heavier and less enjoyable. Over time, the individual may begin associating social interaction with effort rather than ease. Another important element is the reduction of idealization. Earlier in life, people often view others through simplified assumptions. They may assume consistency, sincerity, or alignment without questioning it deeply. As experience increases, these assumptions are gradually replaced by more nuanced understanding. Individuals begin recognizing that people are complex, sometimes inconsistent, and often influenced by context. While this understanding is more accurate, it can also reduce emotional attachment to idealized versions of others. The result is not necessarily dislike, but a more neutral or detached perception. This detachment can feel unfamiliar, especially if previous interactions were driven by stronger emotional engagement. Over time, this neutrality can be interpreted internally as disliking people, even though it may simply reflect a shift in perception. As this shift in perception continues, individuals often begin noticing changes not only in how they see others, but also in how they engage with them. One of the most significant changes is selectivity. Instead of participating in every available interaction, they begin choosing when and where to engage. This selectivity is not always intentional at first. It develops naturally as certain interactions feel less rewarding. Over time, the individual starts prioritizing conversations that offer depth, clarity, or genuine curiosity. This can lead to a reduction in the number of social interactions, but an increase in their quality. Another transformation involves tolerance for superficiality. In earlier stages, people may engage comfortably in light conversation without expecting more. But as their internal standards change, their tolerance for repetitive or surface-level interaction decreases. They may find it difficult to maintain interest in conversations that do not evolve or deepen. This does not mean they reject others entirely. It means their engagement depends more on the substance of the interaction. If the conversation remains shallow, their attention naturally shifts away. This can create the impression of disinterest, even when no negative intention exists. Emotional independence also plays a role. As individuals become more self-aware, they rely less on social interaction for validation or stimulation. They develop internal sources of engagement, such as thinking, creating, or reflecting. This reduces the urgency to seek interaction for its own sake. Social environments become optional rather than necessary. This shift can change how interactions feel. Instead of being driven by need, they are driven by choice. When interaction is no longer required, it is evaluated more critically. If it does not add value, it may not be pursued. This evaluation can further reduce the frequency of social engagement. Another important realization emerges around expectations. Individuals begin understanding that not everyone is seeking the same type of interaction. Some people prioritize entertainment, others prioritize connection, and others prioritize efficiency. These differences can create mismatches that feel like disconnection. Recognizing this reduces frustration but also reinforces selectivity. Instead of expecting every interaction to meet a certain standard, individuals begin identifying which environments align with their preferences. This alignment becomes more important than the number of interactions. Over time, this leads to a more curated social experience. Relationships become fewer but more intentional. Conversations become less frequent but more meaningful. Importantly, this shift does not necessarily lead to isolation. It leads to a different relationship with social interaction. The individual is no longer participating automatically. They are choosing deliberately. This choice creates a sense of control that was previously absent. Social interaction becomes something to engage with when it aligns, rather than something to maintain constantly. Ultimately, the feeling of disliking people is not always about rejection. It is often about recognition. It reflects an increased awareness of patterns, preferences, and differences in how people think and communicate. As this awareness grows, the individual adjusts their behavior accordingly. They seek environments that match their level of depth and reduce engagement in those that do not. This process can feel isolating at times, but it also creates the possibility for more meaningful connection. Instead of interacting broadly, the individual interacts selectively. And within that selectivity, there is the potential for deeper, more aligned relationships that do not rely on constant adjustment or compromise.